In my last tutorial, I showed you how to make a piñata out of using Cinema 4D hair. And I said I had run into issues with the cloth system running into collision limitations. And, that was the case for the scene that I was building for my project, for my client. But, I wanted to try it again on this specific scene to see if I could get a better look and more control. And so, I'm going to show you how to basically build the same thing using Cinema 4D's cloth system and the dynamics there. So let's take a look. And this is the old render, and you can see the new render is here. So this is all done with using cloth, which is cool because you get no intersections between all of the pieces. So yeah, let's see how this is built. All right, I'm going to start with my previous project and sort of convert it. Okay, so I'm going to I have this piece of paper, and I don't need a spline wrap anymore. I don't need any of these things. They can all go away. I got my donkey here. I'm going to actually remesh this and make less polygons because I'm going to use a cloner, and I'm going to it's going to run quicker, and I probably can get away with using less items. Also, I want to make sure that I have as many even polygons. So I don't want a lot of, small polygons around here. And, you're going to see that especially kind of like in areas like here, there's tons of tiny polygons. So I want to reduce that as much as possible. So let's quickly try to remesh this. I'm going to take off the hair colliders. I don't need those. I'm just going to delete these old things. Yep, these are not necessary. Let's just save this as a new project. So here's my remeshed donkey. I'm going to let's just take a look at the viewport display. I can make this a little higher so I see that that's just a bump map that's on there. That's I don't really need it, but it's fine. I'm also going to turn off materials for now. So if you hit N and Q, you just turn off materials. So now you can just see everything. So let's do just a remesh on this, and it's not going to look that different. I do want to. This is a symmetrical object, or at least it can be. So I'm going to do symmetry along I believe it's the X, so the red line is the X. So let's do X, no adaptiveness, and let's do 25% of the poly count. And that's probably a little low. So let's maybe do like 30, let's try maybe 50. 50 is okay. Yeah, 50 looks pretty good. Let's just stick with that. I can see some areas where the polygons are a little bigger, and especially in these areas where you have 5 going together, you may want to subdivide those just to even out the polygons, because you're gonna have one piece of paper per polygon. So let's take a look. I'm just gonna make current state to object on that guy. I don't need the remesh anymore. I'm just going to call this, I just like to say what it was like, double remeshed. I'll just do that. So, and I'll say what the density is, double, whatever. You can do whatever you want. This is just for my own brain. So that's okay. Here's my mesh that we're going to clone things onto, and I'm going to go into point mode and turn on symmetry along the X, and I'm going to select that point and this point, and I'm going to bevel it. So it's M and S, and I'm just going to bevel it to make an even, and that goes on both sides. So it just gives me an extra polygon there. So it's, these aren't as big. I'm not going to worry about it too much, but it would be nicer if these are all more even. And, you know, that's you know, there's a lot of hand work involved there, but it's close enough for what we need. Okay, so will be the object we're going to clone onto. So let's get a cloner, and we're going to put our piece of paper in the cloner. I don't need this custom color anymore. We're not going to do it that way. And what I'm going to do while I'm working is put it in multi-instance mode. So it'll just run super fast in the viewport, and I can make all my adjustments that way. So that's that. I want to go into the polygon center, and everything is twisted in a direction I want to set an up vector to Y. Then the other problem is these pieces of paper, because they're just it's just a plane, the center point is in the middle. But you can use the geometry axis node for this. So go into modifier. I don't know why they have this list in this way. Geometry axis, and then put it as a child of that. That's great. And then I believe we want, so we're going on the Y. It doesn't really matter. So on the, I believe it's the Z. Yeah, Z, we'll go 100%. So now let's just show this here. So this piece of paper is now, you know, has the axis point here at the bottom, which is good. I'm going to change the height to be like, you know, like 16, and then maybe like 6 on the width. You know, we basically want, we'll figure out the width in a second here. Let's put our cloner back on, and I'm going to want these polygons to, I'm going to want these pieces of paper to kind of mostly fill the polygon size. Obviously the polygon size is a little different for each one. So, but you know, you can see here they're pretty good, right? So maybe that's okay. To start, it would be nice if things didn't collide, because, but it's okay if they do a little bit. And then the other thing is, you can see because they're on the polygon centers, when I use connectors, the connectors are going to look for something with the closest point to connect to. So it'd be nice if I had a point in the middle of these polygons. So what I'm going to do actually is make a instance of this, and let's get an instance, and this will just be for cloning onto. So I'm going to put this in a null. Actually, that's not necessary. I'm not going to render this, and we're going to use another thing here called poke polygons. So poke polygons, if you put it as a child, makes a point in the middle of every polygon, which is very handy. So that will just give us points, and you can see here that, you know, the planes themselves are divided by 3 across. So if you actually change the planes to be 2 across, then you'll have a point, and that should work better. You know, the other option is you could make a copy of this and just subdivide it once. So instead of just doing, instead of poke polygons, why don't we just subdivide it one time? So this is just for the connectors. So if we subdivide it once with a subdivision surface, give me a 1. Then let me hide the original reference. So now we have points, you know, here, here, here. So you'll get points that are very close to these pieces of paper, which is great, because the connectors look for points that connect to within a range. So this will be for connectors. For connector, let's just do right. So that's what this is for. This will, again, will not render. And okay, so now I think we're kind of set up correctly. Let's do one more thing before we put dynamics on this. I want to colorize these pieces of paper, and we're going to use fields for that. So just do a plane. Don't need position. Field color, I want to use a linear field. Going to use a gradient. Let's change it to be in the Y. And I'm just gonna do this here. So let's see the Y. Yeah, we want to get the whole thing filled up so the gradient kind of matches all the polygons. Encompasses all the polygons. Great, that'll do. And then let's close this guy. And I don't need to see my lines right now, so just turn that off. And let's colorize this. So right now it's using a gradient of that. I'm going to use one of these grayscale gorilla ones, which are great. Okay, so if you have your materials still turned off, that's MQ to toggle on and off, then you'll see that the actual color of the cloner items, which is great. All right, so and you know, if I want to adjust where these bands are, then I can just easily do it this way, right? Super quick. That's awesome. And another way to visualize how this is going to look real quick is go to transform on the cloner, and you can rotate your polygons in this direction. So yeah, they'll flatten out. This is basically what it will do when they simulate, because they're going to flatten out. But this just gives you a visualization of where your colors are, and you can see, you know, the bands are done in a way that they're kind of cutting across in like this kind of a wonky way here, and it's just because your polygons are not evenly going across in straight lines. They're slightly off. So I mean, if this bothers you, you can just slightly rotate the linear field, right, to kind of even those out, like that, right? That's a little better. Whatever. I mean, that's a small thing, but just something to think about. All right, so let's kill this rotation. I don't need that. Okay, so I think we're all set up now to set the simulation stuff. So what we're going to do is, so the important thing to notice is simulations run on, they need instances, and instances will get real slow just to run, and depends on how many you have in the scene, obviously, you know, and then your computer speed will determine how usable your scene is. Like I can move around super quick right now in multi-instance mode, but once I go to instance mode, it's going to take a second to, and then you can see it just starts chugging away. You know, my frame rate is now down to like, I don't know, 4 frames a second, whatever it is. But we need it for the simulation. So simulation tags, you're gonna go put a cloth tag on here. The defaults are fine. I'm good with those defaults right now. And then I need a collider set on the object, and I can use, you know, I want to use the lowest poly one. So, you know, I think this one is probably a good one to use before it was subdivided. You know, I could possibly, yeah, that should do. So let's put it on this one, and that's simulation collider. Collider. Great. And then the connector, I'm going to, so the connector goes on this item, on the cloner. So simulation connector. And you know, connector objects work with other simulated objects, right? They don't work with things that don't have simulation tags on them. So you have to put a cloth tag on your donkey for connector, but you don't want it to move, so which is very easy. So you go to put a cloth tag on, and then you go to mix animation and turn on with pins at 100%. It basically becomes cloth that cannot move. So great. So now now these clones can connect to these items, and in order to make see the connections, we just need to hit create here. And then, as long as you're selected on the cloner, you'll see these little dots connecting. And because we set up our geometry ahead of time to have points that are very close to the planes, our connections are done. Like, that's good. We don't really need to even make adjustments here. Obviously, the size of your object will change, like the search radius. But for the most part, really, we're only concerned with like kind of the leading edge connecting to the body. I don't think really the number matters that much. If you don't have enough connections, like some of these things will just fly right off the body, which is not ideal. All right, and then we still are using our turbulence. The thing about turbulence is the strength needs to be much higher with the new cloth simulation system. So our previous settings just need to be cranked up a bit, like I don't know, 5 or 6 times. So I'm just gonna set this to like 90. I'm gonna leave the scale kind of where it is. Whatever, doesn't matter. These are the things you're gonna tweak. And then the last piece of the puzzle is the simulation settings in the scene settings. So just Command D, go into the scenes under simulation, and I just want less gravity, really is all. And this, again, you're gonna play with this number. I'm gonna just do like -600. So the smaller the number, the less gravity, and it's really a balance between like how much gravity at this point basically is kind of stretches out the amount of time it takes for things to settle, right? So it will actually help with your collision issues if you run into like things running out of if it says collision max reached or whatever it says, you can lower gravity and it'll actually make the simulation run slower. It might help. You can also play with time scale, I guess. It's kind of the same thing. And then the turbulence, so the combination of the strength and the gravity, they interplay with each other. So you just got to play with those numbers a little bit to get the look you want. All right, so I think that's kind of it. And then now we're just let's hit play. And what I want to do is, I'm just gonna hit play. Let's see what we got. And if all goes well, it should start playing within a few seconds. Yeah. So it's really the first frame. It takes a while to calculate because it has to, especially if, it's got to figure out if there's any like intersections happening. So this is running at, reasonable speed for simulation. And the great thing is that nothing's really colliding much. There's not a lot of things passing through. There might be some here and there, but you can always adjust your simulation substeps, iterations, collision passes if you want to mess with those. For me, the defaults have been working pretty well for this version. So yeah, I think it's not so bad. Obviously, we reduced the polygons quite a bit so that you're seeing all these gaps, but these can be sort of mitigated by just reducing the amount of turbulence in your scene. So it maybe it's a little chaotic right now, and then the other thing for the color is I believe I need to just make some adjustments. So color user data, that's pretty good actually. I think it's okay. I'm going to use this one, which it's not using subsurface, so it's just a different material, and I'm just going to put that on the paper. Okay, let's take a look at the render and see what we got. So I'm just going to put my camera back. I don't need to see the connectors, so yeah. All right, well, yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, there you go. You're definitely seeing some color issues because I didn't change the color of the body underneath, so it's using my old colors. So it's fairly easy. I just have to change the ramp. I'm going to use vertex colors because I'm not seeing most of this. I just need to see the things that are peeking underneath. So quickly, let me do that real quick. I'm going to do this on the, where is this? Here. So I'm gonna actually use this one for rendering. I'm gonna do this. Let's do this kind of thing. Just make it a duplicate. Let's not see that. Let's not see this one either. So this would be the one for rendering. And then I could crank my subdivisions up on this. And get rid of my cloth tag. Don't want that. And I don't need that, so I'm not even using this anymore. Okay, so in theory, let's just take a look at this and see the subdivisions. Yep. So that's good. Let's go back to this real quick. So I'm just looking to use my linear field to create the vertex colors on this object. So for other tags, vertex color, and I don't know if this matters, but I'm going to do polygon points there. Let's see what is the difference between points only. There's not really any. So now I got my colors that are mapped as vertex. And then, if you want this to be more detailed, you could just up the subdivisions on that. Right. So, but like I said, 90% of this is going to be covered up by the paper. So it's just really to get the stuff peeking through. And so this one is going to render. Yeah, great. And we just need to get this body. So instead of using the ramp, I'm going to put in the vertex attribute node and call the vertex color, and then we'll just replace the ramp. So there you go. And let's go back to look at our render. Go back to our camera. Yeah. Cool. Oh, this is not turned off. The render is turned off on the instance, so it was invisible. So let's turn that back on. It'll take a second. All right, now it's going through, and the colors are probably working well. You can just turn off your cloner just to see what it looks like. Again, making changes when you have all those instances running just gets real slow. So, what you can do is just kind of go back to frame 0, put the cloner back in. You can actually just disable the cloner right now. I'm not using it. I just want to get the colors right here. So quickly, just so I can get this, color corrected correctly. Before I had it darker. I probably don't want it like that. Yeah, that's fine. Good enough. So that's just so things show underneath correctly. And whoops, clicking the wrong buttons. Glad it's not crashing. Okay, so let's just resimulate. And what I like to do also is I'm going to simulate up to a frame, and I'm just going to keep doing that over and over. So let's just make frame 16 be the end point, and go to the animate menu, play mode, simple. So this way, when I hit play, it'll simulate all the way to the end and it won't loop back. So at least I know I'm just going to keep looking at frame 16 every time I make changes to things like turbulence and whatever else I'm making changes to. And then this way I know I'm operating on the same kind of frame, and I can see the differences in my changes. Because at least one thing is the same as everything else. Okay, frame 16. I don't need to see the lines anymore, so let's just do that. It might be a little bit much, right? So I can see in here I don't even need to render. I think that's probably too much turbulence. So let's let's pull back on that. Let's go like half as much. And I'm gonna reduce the scale a bit and then resimulate. So back to frame 0 and hit play. And this is kind of how the whole system works, and really now it's just a matter of trial and error. Getting the look you want. The colors are easy to change at any point. You can even do it after the simulation has run because it's just a plane effector with the color, so I don't think it would change anything. Let's take a look at that. And let's see what we think. Yeah, I mean, that's not bad. So the great thing is that nothing's intersecting, and this material is like just kind of has no subsurface or transparency to it. So to do a final render, I'd probably want to use this other material I was working on. So let's take a look at that real quick. But yeah, it's looking good. I'm pretty happy with this situation. And I don't know how far you can push it, like how many polygons will it just complain after. I don't know. It really depends on your computer. Yeah, so this is just a matter of tweaking this subsurface. So I think for me it's a little too much there. I'm going to feed in some of the diffuse amount here to like, I don't know, 0.5. So just want a little bit of subsurface, not a crazy amount. Yeah, anyway, that's kind of the alternative technique using the newer system, and I love it because I don't know, it's a better dynamic system, and you're using cloners, so you have way more control over like the color and stuff like that. So let's see what you guys make out of these things. That'd be cool. I want to see some other animals or whatever you're gonna make. And it doesn't have to be these bands, right? You could use any field to make your colors. You could probably project using the shader reflector, project images as your color scheme onto the object. So there's a lot of possibilities. All right, that'll do it for me. And yeah, don't subscribe.